Difficult too, from trying to find somewhere quiet to concentrate to maintaining a proper work-life balance. And sometimes I just have too many facts swirling around in my head. That's where Best Fiends swoops in to save me, offering endless hours of stress-free playtime whenever I need it. It's free to download and has literally millions of 5-star reviews on the App Store and Google Play. Seriously, when you download Best Fiends, boredom won't stand a chance. Download Best Fiends free today on the App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends. Nothing was set in stone that would give Broome County, New York prosecutors an inkling about what was going to happen next. Those working the case did not even speak to anyone in Nicaragua for days after Haley's murder, and investigators didn't even know if authorities there were looking for Orlando prior to the press conference and seeing him on the video. Once authorities had him in Nicaragua, prosecutors in New York worked quickly to present the case to a grand jury because once he was indicted, a warrant for his arrest could be issued. He was soon officially charged with second-degree murder and a formal request for extradition was made. District Attorney Steve Cornwell said, quote,
"We haven't talked about the facts of the case, and it's so disturbing to do it, but I think we have to do it to express why it's so important to have a law such as what they have. The fact of the matter is, Orlando Tercero, in a cold-blooded manner, choked the life out of a young woman who was, we believe, probably sleeping and had been drinking. It doesn't get any more sick and depraved than that, and clearly he's using not only his physical abilities, but preying on somebody who's helpless and completely overpowered them with no chance at all. And he did that. And this specific law they have recognized that is a specific type of violence and evil that he needed to be held accountable for. And just as he had treated her in the relationship that they had, he was a completely selfish and evil person.
Nicaragua had returned fugitives to other countries, but Orlando was a citizen of both countries, and extraditing him violated Nicaraguan law. Even Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer penned a letter to the Secretary of State stressing the importance of using all of his diplomatic powers to get Orlando back for prosecution. Graduation came, commemorating Haley's achievements and memory with a framed photo and cap and gown adorning her empty seat. Her father Gordon took his daughter's place in the reception line. Over time, it became increasingly unlikely that they would hand over a Nicaraguan citizen to be prosecuted in another country, even if he had been born here in the States. To the Nicaraguan justice system, he was now their problem, and they finally let Broome County know as much in September of 2019. After more than 17 months of incarceration with no charges filed, an August 2019 hearing determined that there would be no extradition. Nicaragua instead decided that they would put him on trial in their country, under the laws of their judicial system, with a Nicaraguan judge and no jury. Instead of being charged with second-degree murder, he would be charged with the crime of femicide, a charge which exists in several countries, but not in the United States. Orlando was facing a maximum sentence of 30 years in prison for the murder of a woman with whom he had an existing relationship. Everyone involved was nervous, but at the same time grateful that this precedent-setting event was even taking place. 2019 had been a bumpy time in America and Nicaragua's political relationship, and also that year, the World Justice Project ranked the country a dismal 114th out of the 126 countries they evaluated. This report was based on factors such as the absence of corruption, fundamental rights, civil justice, and regulatory enforcement. Regardless, the Broome County DA remained optimistic and raised no objections to the situation. This was clearly as good as it was going to get. At the pretrial conference immediately preceding the start of the trial, the defense raised two exceptions. First, accusing the court of not having proper jurisdiction, and second, highlighting that no femicide charge exists in New York or within the entirety of the U.S. The exceptions were dismissed and trial began in Nicaragua on October 1, 2019. Judge Maria Fabiola Betancourt presided over the trial, which spanned 4 weeks. The gender unit of the Public Ministry of Nicaragua was trying the case with Rosa Espinosa Gonzalez as lead prosecutor. The Broome County DA's office was as happy as could be expected, and although they had no jurisdiction over the proceedings, they did facilitate local witness testimony via teleconference.
We were dispatched to a female down not breathing. When I arrived, nos mandaron diciendo que había una mujer que no estaba respirando, y cuando yo llegué, Officer Ross was at the location. El oficial de policía Ross ya estaba en la locación. He checked for a pulse. Él chequeó el pulso. He was in a rear bedroom. Él estaba en un cuarto de atrás. I observed Hallie, who I did not know it was Hallie at that time. Yo le vi a Hallie, en ese momento no sabía que era ella, Hallie. Laying on the bed. Estaba acostada en la cama. On her back. De boca arriba. And the sheet pulled up to her waist area, I believe. Tenía una sábana que estaba cubierta hasta más o menos la parte de la cintura. Michela Topali advised that my friend app, Find My Friend app, was showing that Hallie Anderson's cell phone was inside the apartment at 23 Oak Street. Y Michelle Topali es la que dijo que utilizó la aplicación Find My Friend, que quiere decir encuentra a mi amigo, y que le estaba localizando en la calle 23 Oak. They stated that Hallie had hooked up with Orlando Tercero a couple of times, but did not want anything serious with him. Ellas me dijeron que Hallie Anderson había estado unas 2 veces con Orlando Tercero, pero que ella no quería nada serio. That he was obsessed with her. Que él estaba obsesionado con ella. And that at one time he had slashed her vehicle's tires.
The defense seemed confident in a temporary insanity defense, saying that Orlando couldn't recall strangling Hallie to death because he was intoxicated. His claim was that he awoke on Thursday morning lying next to his ex-girlfriend's dead body. The only witness called by the defense was a psychiatrist who offered little in the way of an explanation for Orlando's actions. All he could say with confidence was that his current state of mind was normal. He couldn't verify Orlando's claims that he was too drunk to remember committing murder. The defendant appeared nonchalant and even bored throughout his month-long proceedings, and this did not sit well with Hallie's parents, watching via internet feed in New York. At times, he was permitted to visit with his mother during court recesses, and several photographs were published in the news of the pair hugging and chatting. In the end, Orlando's demeanor was just one of the many factors Judge Betancourt evaluated on her way to a decision, which she deliberated on for less than 2 hours. In the November 1, 2019 verdict, she noted 3 aggravating factors she took into consideration. The first being that Orlando had tried and failed to rekindle a relationship with Hallie prior to her murder. The fact that Hallie had been drinking and was defenseless implied that Orlando, quote, acted with treachery. The judge went on to say that death by suffocation becomes an aggravation of murder, since in itself this form involves an excessive use of force, an exercise of absolute control of the victim who is subjected to real torment before depriving her of life. This aggravating circumstance was accredited by the forensic medical expertise that determined the cause of Hallie Anderson's death. He was found guilty of the crime of femicide and sentenced to 30 years in a Nicaraguan prison. In February of 2020, it was revealed that Orlando was appealing his femicide conviction, and his attorney was now requesting that the court order a new psychiatric evaluation, this time completed by a forensic psychiatrist. That request, in furtherance of a temporary insanity defense, was denied on the spot, but the second request, that they review the femicide charge and sentence, was taken into consideration. His attorney then contended that American guidelines should have been used to determine his Nicaraguan charges and sentence. He was now asking Judge Betancourt to change his charge to homicide instead, which carried with it a lesser term of years plus the opportunity for parole, instead of the 30 years she had just given him 4 months before. 2 years and 1 day after Haley Anderson was murdered, Orlando Tercero's appeal for a lesser sentence was denied on March 10, 2020. After 3 weeks of consideration and deliberation by the court, Judge Betancourt upheld her previous decision on Orlando's charge and sentence. Her father Gordon said following the decision, quote, "I thank the Nicaraguan court system. I was a little uneasy when it first came about, not having control of the situation here in the United States, but as the trial progressed, I quickly felt assured that the right thing would be done, and I think a remarkable job was done."
She was a compassionate person.
Ella era una persona muy compasiva.
She had a zest for life.
Tenía en la vida.
She lived to spread joy and love.
Le gustaba dar mucho amor y cariño.
She offered help for those who needed it.
Ella ofreció ayuda a las personas que necesitaban.
Wherever she went, a smile followed.
A donde ella iba, ella estaba sonriendo.
Her action was contagious.
Sus acciones eran contagiosas.
So basically, I answered, I would like her to remember that she did the next right thing.
Entonces yo respondí que me gustaría que la recuerden que ella hizo las cosas correctas.
But I'd like to add to that.
Pero me gustaría también añadir
Our actions, everybody's actions,
nuestras acciones y las acciones de todos,
how small or insignificant, like a smile or gesture or opening a door for someone,
no importa qué pequeñas o insignificantes sean, como por ejemplo una sonrisa o abriendo la puerta para otra persona,
or how heinous as Orlando's was,
o como horríficas como las de Orlando,
affects others.
afectan a otras personas.
Over the last 2 years,
En los 2 últimos años,
your actions
tus acciones
have taken from many people.
han tenido mucho de muchas personas, han cogido mucho de muchas personas.
Emotionally, mentally, and physically, it's taken from Haley's family.
Se han llevado muchas emociones, mucho sufrimiento físico de la familia de Haley.
It's taken from your mother, your family.
Se han llevado mucho de tu familia y de tu mamá.
That's affected the court system down there,
Y también ha afectado al sistema de la corte de allá,
as well as up here.
también como aquí.
Over the past 2 years, it's your selfish actions which have affected others drastically.
En los 2 últimos años, tus acciones han afectado drásticamente.
It's a trait common with people who commit crimes such as yours.
Eso,
Your selfishness, your taking, is a trait common with people who commit crimes such as yours.
las acciones y los crímenes que tú has hecho es muy egoísta de tu parte.
It's what you want and what's good for you.
Haley's mother spoke as well, saying, quote, "Thank you very much for not granting the appeal. I have not seen any remorse. I've only seen regret that he's not going to be able to lessen his sentence. Unfortunately, I don't even think 30 years is enough, but I appreciate all the work you've done to convict him to the fullest extent of the law." Speaking directly to Tercero, she said, "I hope that you can get the help that you need to be a better human being in 30 years when you do get to leave prison." Orlando Enrique Tercero Moreno is 24 years old and is housed at the notorious El Chipote prison in Nicaragua's capital city of Managua. Institutional meals consist of beans and rice once per day, but inmates' families are allowed to bring more food. He'll be released from custody in his early 50s